My mom's clothes were ripped off by my grandpa. He ground up 100 snakeskins into a paste and smeared it all over her body, hoping it would give her flawless skin and a beautiful figure, so she could marry into a rich family. 998 days later, my mom really did start giving off this alluring scent. But turns out she had to use a snake every single night, and each snake that was used would foam at the mouth and die, until my mom caught a green snake with a bump on its head. Who knew that green snake could talk? It said, "Sister, you're my last trial. If you let me go, I promise I'll make sure you never have to worry about money." My mom knew the difference between one good meal and never being hungry again, so she nodded in agreement and made a secret deal with that green snake. From that day on, my mom became obsessed with making coffins. Our coffins not only kept women young, but could also help men regain their vigor. People lined up every day, begging for a coffin. And my mom used that skill to raise me. The kids in the village thought our yard full of coffins was creepy. They thought it was bad luck, and were too scared to play with me. Until one day, my mom locked herself in her workshop, and stayed up for 7 nights straight, making 5 special coffins. These 5 coffins were all different colors. My mom said they were called the 5 elements coffins. These 5 coffins were sent to 5 families in the city, who were all on the verge of going bankrupt, in exchange for 5 soul contracts with their bloody fingerprints. And the 5 families who received those 5 elements coffins became the 5 wealthiest families in the city in just a few short years. Every year, they'd bring their daughters to the village to visit my mom. But I don't think those daughters liked me very much. They always looked at me with this condescending, disgusted look, like I was dirty. I always thought that as long as I kept my head down, life would just pass by peacefully. But when I turned 9, big black bruises suddenly started appearing all over my body. My mom just took one look and announced that she was retiring. She'd never make another coffin again. And from that moment on, the bruises on my body magically disappeared. I also asked Mom why she didn't make coffins anymore, so I could get better. But my mom looked at me, real serious, and told me, "You're not getting better, because you're technically already dead." What she said really freaked me out. I didn't know what to say for a minute, but she just kept looking at me, totally serious, saying, "I found you in a coffin. A dragon coffin. So the dragon energy you have brings good luck. For the past 9 years, I've been using your dragon energy to trade for the life force of the villagers, so you could live until today." She warned me, "The dead get dragged back to the underworld. From now on, every birthday, you have to hide in a coffin to avoid being caught." That night, the wind outside howled like crazy, like ghosts and wolves were screaming. Something was clawing and scratching at the coffin lid like mad. I was lying there all alone in the pitch-black coffin, shaking like a leaf. Cold sweat soaked my clothes, and I could feel another energy inside my body, just running wild, making me spasm in pain. But then, right then, a little green snake suddenly slithered in through a crack in the coffin. Slick as anything, it crawled right into my arms. A faint, sweet fragrance filled the darkness in an instant, chasing away the coffin's rotten smell. In a daze, I felt like I was holding not a cold little snake, but this incredibly beautiful girl. Her skin was as white as snow, her face so gorgeous it could overthrow kingdoms, like an angel had just come down from heaven. She was the most beautiful person I'd ever seen in my life. Her cold body glided slowly over the bruises on my skin, and a tingly feeling spread from the surface of my skin. The pain inside me started to fade away, replaced by a peace I'd never felt before. It was like as long as she was there, no one could hurt me. I slept like a rock that night, until the next morning. My mom yanked me out of the coffin. That's when I realized the jade snake was gone. I only noticed that on my wrist, there was a jade bracelet, head and tail connected, that I don't know when it appeared. It all started that day. My mom started teaching me all sorts of mystical arts, until I turned 16. Suddenly, bad luck started plaguing the village, one thing after another. It was like someone had put a curse on us. All the livestock in the village died overnight. Several young and strong men went up the mountain to chop firewood, and all mysteriously broke their legs. My body started deteriorating rapidly too. My hands were originally just black bruises, but now black scales were growing all over them. Those scales were hard and cold, with sharp edges. They hurt like hell at the slightest touch. Even putting on clothes became a torture. My mom locked herself in her room, lit incense, and did divination all night. When she came out, her jet black, shiny hair had turned completely white. Her body was extremely weak. She stared intently in the direction of the graveyard and spat out a few words through gritted teeth. The yang energy nourishing you and the dragon energy in your body have been stolen. As the bad luck in the village continued to worsen, they started gossiping about us behind our backs. Someone threw black dog blood at our door in the middle of the night. There were even rumors saying that my mom was an old monster who sucked people's yang energy, that all those coffins were an act of stealing people's yang energy. Finally, one day, the village chief kicked down our door with a dozen young men. Using the recent streak of bad luck as an excuse, they insisted that my mom was the cause. Like bandits, they looted all of the few remaining valuables and food from our house. Old hag, if it wasn't for you making those evil coffins, the village wouldn't be so unlucky now. Consider this food as compensation for everyone. If you dare to cause trouble again, you better get out of the village. I released death energy, wanting to fight back, but my mom held me back tightly. She lowered her voice and told me, "You absolutely can't start construction before the wedding night. Otherwise, it'll attract grim reapers coming for your life." Some villagers who didn't get anything decent took their anger out on us by beating us. My mom, trying to protect me, was kicked hard to the ground. She coughed up a lot of fresh blood. From that day on, walking through the village, everyone looked at me with blatant disgust and scorn. Kids even threw rocks at me. Whenever I was in so much pain from the scales in the middle of the night, or secretly wiping away tears under the covers, the jade snake bracelet on my wrist would glow faintly. Immediately afterwards, an extremely gentle coolness would soothe my wrist, just like that beautiful young woman holding me in the coffin back then. When I turned 18, my mom suddenly disappeared. I searched every corner of the village, but finally found her in a coffin at home. Her eyes were tightly closed, her face completely bloodless. I was worried something had happened to her, and wanted to shake her awake. But she suddenly opened her mouth and asked, "Shannon, how old are you this year?" I was startled, but still quickly said, "I was born on September 9th in the year of the rabbit. I just turned 18 today." After hearing my words, my mom suddenly sat up from the coffin. "No, you were born on September 9th at 9:09 a.m. in the year of the dragon. You just turned 17 yesterday." I was a little confused. Was my mom hallucinating? But then she suddenly coughed up a mouthful of black blood and let out a shrill laugh. "We won, we won. We finally won." I was scared by her appearance and asked her what we won. Her tone gradually increased. "We won against God. Chinen, I told you, I stole you from a dragon coffin. Your identity is extremely special. Plus, forcibly borrowing life, this was already defying fate. The borrowed life force and your body haven't fully merged over the years. That's why these changes are happening. And before you turn 18, you'll face both divine punishment and earthly tribulation. That's why I specially changed your age to be older by a year. It was to deceive the heavens, so that the heavenly punishment comes early and is staggered from the earthly tribulation. Today, your mom already took this heavenly punishment for you." I stared blankly at my mom, unable to process so much at once. My mom slowly moved out of the coffin, her hands trembling. She took out 5 marriage contracts wrapped in red silk from her chest and stuffed them into my hand. "These are the marriage contracts I exchanged for with the 5 elements official positions back then. These 5 girls are phoenix maidens with special fates. The engagement will come next year. Take the marriage contracts to the city and choose one of the girls to marry. You need her life force to nourish you every night, to slowly resolve the death energy in you. But even if I choose one, will they agree?" My mom coughed, spitting out a mouthful of black blood, then gently reassured me, "If they're sensible, they should be begging to marry you, to pay back the debt from that year." Speaking of this, she stared intently at the green bracelet on my wrist, and laboriously instructed me, "Remember this bracelet. No matter what happens, don't lose it." As soon as she finished speaking, she breathed her last, and collapsed into a pool of blood. Only then did I see the scattered medical records under her bed. It turned out that she had been suffering from terminal bone cancer for a long time, but she never told me. With a thud, I knelt on the ground, holding the 5 marriage contracts, crying my heart out. The next day, I built a simple morning hall for her in the muddy courtyard. It poured rain for 3 days straight. I wore tattered sackcloth, kneeling in front of the brazier burning paper money. The village was as silent as death. The villagers who had once benefited from my mom were all hiding at home right now. Not a single person came to offer incense. The depressing silence made my heart feel like ashes. I originally planned to finish the mourning for my mother, and then take the marriage certificates to the city to find wives. But on the afternoon of the third day, a low-engine roar suddenly came from afar. 5 top-of-the-line luxury cars parked extremely aggressively in front of my dilapidated little courtyard. The car doors opened. 5 glamorous girls stepped out in exquisite high heels, under the protection of black umbrellas held by black-suited bodyguards, and walked into the yard full of paper money ashes. The pungent scent of expensive perfume instantly covered the smell of burnt paper in the morning hall. But because of the commotion from the luxury cars, the villagers who had been hiding far away were now surrounding the entrance to my courtyard, watching the spectacle. The leading girl was wearing a high-end custom-made red dress. She walked to the morning hall and took the incense handed to her by a bodyguard. She respectfully bowed 3 times. The girl in the deep purple dress beside her had slightly red eyes, and even gently dabbed at the corners of her eyes with a tissue. "I'm Jiang Shuman, the daughter of the Jiang family." The girl in the red dress turned around. Her voice was as gentle as a pool of spring water. "This is Su Mengyao, the daughter of the Su family. And these are the younger sisters from the Bai, Lu, and Shin families. You must be Chen En." Hearing these 5 names, and looking at the vaguely familiar, stunning faces in front of me, I trembled violently. Jiang Shuman, Su Mengyao. My mind flashed wildly. With the 5 marriage certificates my mom had stuffed into my hands before she died. The birth dates and names on them matched perfectly. It really was them. They were the 5 girls who always complained about me being dirty when we were kids. They were also the 5 fiancés my mom left me before she died. We heard Aunt Chun passed away. Aunt Chun was a great benefactor to our Wu family back then. Jiang Shuman took a step forward. Her beautiful eyes glanced around, her gaze full of pity. "We came specifically to send her off on her final journey, and to settle the karma from back then." Was that karma from back then saying I had to marry you? My eyes instantly welled up. When the whole village saw me as a jinx, they, who I hadn't seen in years, actually came to fulfill their promise. Su Mengyao also stepped forward, her eyes slightly red. "Yes, Chunin. As long as you bring out the marriage contracts and choose one of us, we'll immediately get engaged to you. We'll never let you suffer any more hardship in the future." Hearing these words, the villagers watching outside the door instantly erupted. "Oh, these young ladies. You've definitely got the wrong guy. This kid is a born jinx. He even has disgusting black scales on his body. Don't let him fool you. Yeah, this must be some prank show these online influencers from the city are filming, right? He's not even worthy of having a wife." The villagers lowered their voices, pointing and whispering, their eyes filled with undisguised jealousy, scorn, and a playful anticipation of drama. And my heart was pounding in my chest. Tears instantly burst from my eyes. When the whole village was pushing me away like I was a plague, these wealthy heiresses from the city actually came to the countryside to get engaged. Thank you all." I choked out, overwhelmed with emotion, hastily wiping my muddy hands on my coarse clothes, like I was handling precious treasure. I carefully took out the 5 marriage contracts from my pocket, warmed by my body temperature, and handed them over. Jiang Shuman very gently accepted the marriage contracts. Looking at the mottled blood fingerprints on them, a subtle golden glint flashed in her eyes. "Chunin, we don't need your wealth. But since we're here to get engaged, according to custom, we should have an engagement token, right?" Hearing this, I nodded quickly, touching my head, thinking about what I had that could serve as an engagement token. But the next second, Jiang Shuman's gaze shifted, finally landing on the green bracelet I was wearing on my wrist. "I think this bracelet of yours is very beautiful. Why not use it as our engagement token and give it to your future wife to keep safe, okay?" Hearing these words, I froze right there. I instinctively covered my wrist. This bracelet had long since become a part of me. It was with me since I was a little kid. "I'm sorry, but this is the one thing I can't give up." I shook my head and took a step back in fear. I'll find something else. But that one step back seemed to light some kind of fuse. "How can you be so ungrateful?" The village chief's wife, who was watching from outside, couldn't help but mock me. "These are the 5 misses of the Wu family. All of them fighting to marry you. And you won't even give up a junky bracelet as an engagement token? You're hiding it like it's gold. Aren't you embarrassed? Several villagers chimed in, their faces full of disdain and envy. I blushed with shame. My hand hung in the air, hesitating, not knowing how to explain. Just then, Su Mengyao walked right up to me and gave me a reproachful look. While I was distracted and flustered, she grabbed my wrist and took the bracelet off gently but firmly and handed it to Jiang Shuman. There you go. Now that the token is exchanged, our marriage is set. Jiang Shuman examined the jade green bracelet in her hand. Her eyes revealed a strange kind of happiness. Then she took out a piece of black silk and walked up to me. Chenin, to celebrate our engagement, we've prepared a surprise for you. Now we're going to blindfold you with this cloth. The 5 of us will stand here. Whoever you grab will be the one to share your wedding night. Hearing the words, wedding night, my ears turned hot, but I still shook my head, thinking of my mother. But Jiang Shuman blindfolded me with the black cloth and said to me with a smile, your mother came to me in a dream last night. She said her biggest regret was not seeing you get married. We're just fulfilling her wish. At that moment, I really thought that heaven was finally favoring me. But the moment I was blindfolded, I caught a glimpse of Jiang Shuman. A sly, mischievous grin suddenly spread across her face. Next thing I knew, everything went black. All I could hear were the heartbeats and heavy breathing of those 5 spoiled girls. The 7 years of nocturnal skills my mom taught me were finally about to come in handy. I subtly formed a hand seal, activating my ability to listen for the flow of qi. My senses instantly expanded. I had a clear view of everything around me. But instead of a love-struck fiancé, I saw Su Mengyao just finished stowing away the 5 marriage certificates and was wiping her hands with a sanitizing wipe, looking disgusted. Touching something he touched is so gross. I'll have to wash my hands 10 times when I get back. Jiang Shuman was using her phone to take pictures of the snake chain in her hand. Seemed like she was sending it to someone for confirmation. Hurry up and get a clear shot of this country bumpkin acting all horny. Post it in the group. Let everyone have a good laugh. The remaining 3 were holding up their phones, snickering, while aiming their lenses directly at me. Look at how excited he is. He really thinks he's good enough for us. Jiang Jie, stop playing around. Hurry up and stick Master Zheng's talisman on his forehead and let's get out of here. At the same time, a pungent smell of cinnabar mixed with the bloody stench of black dog blood suddenly invaded my nostrils. That was sand ink used by banishing masters. I froze. So they weren't actually here to marry me at all. They were here to trick me into handing over the marriage certificates, steal my bracelet, and humiliate me in a vile way in front of my mother's altar. Force me to break off the engagement. At that moment, my heart sank completely. I gritted my teeth in anger. The string of reason in my mind snapped instantly, ignoring my mother's warning not to act rashly. Her dying advice about the deathly energy. I activated the suppressed deathly energy within me. The next second, there was a loud bang. The dilapidated wooden doors of the morning hall were suddenly slammed shut by a strange gust of wind. The once quiet courtyard was instantly filled with a chilling wind. The flames in the brazier inside the house flickered with an eerie green light. What's going on? How did the door close? Ladies! Startled, my body shuddered. Su Mengyao whispered into Jiang Shuman's ear. Could Sister Jiang be Aunt Chen's ghost? I stood there, deliberately not removing the black cloth, pretending I knew nothing. But a cold smile crept onto my lips. Why are you all so quiet? Am I allowed to start grabbing people now? But I think you're all doing pretty well. Can I just have everyone? You're dreaming. One of the young ladies couldn't help but burst out. But Jiang Shuman held her back. I'll count to 3, then I'll start grabbing. Jiang Shuman, fighting back her fear, gripping the corpse-suppressing talisman with the strange runes drawn on it, stealthily crept towards me, preparing to slap it directly on my forehead. To end this prank, just as it was about to touch me, I suddenly raised my hand and grabbed his wrist with extreme precision. Jiang Shuman gasped. His whole body froze. Got you. Through the black cloth, I yanked him forcefully, pulling his entire body roughly into my arms. Purple energy followed my fingertips, forcing its way into his wrist, grasping tightly onto his life gate. Although I don't know who it is, but since I've caught you, let's consummate our marriage now. Chanan, let me go. Jiang Shuman finally panicked. Intense pain and fear made him struggle desperately, but his strength in my hands was like a little chick. He couldn't break free at all. Just as I was about to completely tear off the mask and give her a lesson worse than death, an extremely mournful swona sound suddenly pierced through the heavy rain, stabbing straight into my ears. That's not a tune played by the living. That's the guiding melody played when hell's messengers go out to collect souls. My heart trembled. This is bad. Today is my 18th birthday, the day of the death knot. I activated the death knot earlier. I actually summoned the officials from hell so quickly. If I don't stop now, if those grim reapers find me, I'm dead meat today. I quickly channeled my energy, instantly suppressing the surging death energy back into my core. The death energy backfired. My body shuddered violently. My internal organs felt like they'd been hit by a sledgehammer, instantly becoming extremely weak. My limbs went limp, powerlessly releasing Jiang Shumen's hand. The death energy backflowed, damaging my meridians, meaning I wouldn't be able to use death energy again for quite a while. As I withdrew the death energy, the eerie wind outside abruptly stopped. The villagers outside worked together to push open the courtyard door. I ripped off the black cloth over my eyes, looking at the 5 terrified women before me, and feigned innocence, asking, "What's going on? Why is the wind so strong? Shumen, weren't we about to, you know?" Before I could finish my sentence, Jiang Shumen slapped me across the face, slapping me hard across the face. I covered my face, forcefully suppressing the murderous intent in my eyes, pretending to look at her in disbelief. "Shumen, why did you hit me? Didn't you say you wanted to consummate our marriage in front of my mom? Are you crazy?" Jiang Shumen couldn't believe her ears, and was trembling with anger. She fiercely raised the 5 marriage certificates in her hand, and in front of my mother's memorial tablet, tore them with a ripping sound, tearing them to shreds. "You're a toad, trying to eat swan meat. You're delusional. Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? Consummate the marriage with me? Are you even worthy?" At that moment, the scattered pieces of paper felt like loud slaps on my face. After that, Jiang Shumen's bodyguards threw me into the courtyard. I fell into the mud, shaking all over. Just then, the village chief and some strong guys who had been watching from the yard grabbed hose and shovels, blocking my path. "What do you think you're doing? Bullying an orphan with no parents in our village?" "Ha!" the village chief yelled righteously. Looking at the broad back blocking my way, a glimmer of hope flashed in my eyes. Could it be that some of the villagers still cared? My throat tightened, and I was about to say thank you, but the next second the village chief put on the face of a thug, smiling obsequiously at Jiang Shumen. "One thing at a time, though. This kid, Chunin, has lacked manners since he was little. Fending your eyes. He's in the wrong. We'll make him kneel and apologize to you. But you've broken the village rules today, so you need to leave some compensation, right?" Faced with the village chief's collective extortion, Jiang Shumen let out an extremely contemptuous sneer. He didn't take these country bumpkins seriously at all. "You want compensation, huh? Okay." He snapped his fingers, and the bodyguard immediately opened those black combination lock briefcases that were originally pretending to be dowry. Bundles and bundles of red banknotes were poured directly onto the ground, piled into a small mountain. The village chief and the villagers' eyes went wide instantly, and even their breathing became heavy. They couldn't help but retreat behind the 5 young ladies. My heart felt like it had been doused with a bucket of ice water. So these villagers weren't here to help me. They just wanted to use me to get some benefits. And afterwards I'd have to kneel and thank them for helping me smooth things over. I suppressed the churning in my stomach, took a deep breath, and said in a cold voice, "Don't you forget, without my mother's 5 elements coffin, would you have what you have today? Aren't you afraid of karmic retribution?" Hearing this, Jiang Shumen laughed as if he'd heard the biggest joke in the world, scoffing disdainfully. "Retribution? It was your mother who tricked us first. How is a dead person worthy of marrying a living one? This engagement was always just a piece of paper." The moment she said that, the villagers were stunned. The village chief stammered, "Miss Jiang, what are you saying? How is Chun and not alive?" Jiang Shumen sneered, and had someone bring out an old bronze bagua compass from the fancy car, pointing it directly at me. "Chunin, let everyone see what you really are." I subconsciously looked up at the mirror. The surrounding villagers also looked towards the mirror. Immediately the crowd erupted. In the reflection of that bronze mirror, what was reflected wasn't a living person at all, but a dark, churning, dying shadow. Look, he doesn't have the shadow of a living person. He's a ghost. The village chief retreated in fear. Now you know. Your village's recent bad luck isn't some kind of natural disaster at all. Jiang Shuman's vicious voice echoed in the rain. It's all because this dead man is sucking your life energy to stay alive. You've all been fooled by his dead mother. As soon as she said that, the whole place went silent, looking at the dazzling money on the ground, and then at the terrifying dead person reflection in the mirror. The villagers' faces grew increasingly grim. So, we've all been tricked by this witch. What are you waiting for? Tear down this witch's ancestral hall. Hearing this, my chest felt like it was being twisted with a knife. The life energy was clearly borrowed, and my dragon energy also made them rich. Their sons and daughters all bought mansions in the city, and got married, and now they want to destroy my mother's ancestral hall? Immediately, those once kindly neighbors charged towards me with hoes and torches. If anyone dares to touch the ancestral hall, I guarantee they'll be kneeling to my mother in the underworld tonight. I stood firmly in front of my mother's ancestral hall, roaring with bloodshot eyes. Even though I'm weak, but I still looked enough to scare these bullying villagers back half a step. They looked at each other, afraid to come forward. Just when things were at a standstill, Uncle Jiang slowly added another stroke. What are you afraid of? The yang energy in her body has long been exhausted. She's just hanging on by a thread. As long as we smash this shrine, she definitely won't survive. Even if someone dies tonight, my Jiang family will take responsibility. The money on the ground, take it as you please. With the down payment taken care of and the lure of money on the ground, the villagers completely lost their minds. They no longer had any scruples. They kicked over the brazier. A rain of clubs came crashing down on me. I fought back desperately, protecting my mom's memorial tablet with my own flesh and blood. But one fist can't beat four hands, especially since I'm so weak from suppressing the death energy. I took several heavy blows to the back of my head. Everything went black. I could only watch in despair as they approached my mom's altar. Jiang Shuman walked up to me, the green bracelet clutched in her hand. She looked down at me condescendingly, a cold smile on her face. Just when I was about to pass out from the pain, there was a cracking sound. The bracelet that Jiang Shuman was holding in her hand suddenly burst with a blinding, cold white light. An extremely cold energy suddenly erupted. The heavy rain instantly froze into icy needles in the sky. The villagers, who were still frantically smashing the shrine, moved slower and slower. The hoes and shovels in their hands were covered with a layer of ice. Jiang Shuman let out a shrill scream. Her wrist was instantly frozen blue, and the bracelet slipped out of her hand. Before anyone could react to what was happening, a huge green snake phantom broke through the air, accompanied by a clear hiss. The green snake's cold, merciless vertical pupils swept across the scene. An unparalleled pressure crashed down. The bodyguards and villagers who had been yelling just a moment ago were sent flying. They slammed heavily into the mud in the yard. I slumped down on the bluestone floor of the morning hall. I stared, completely blown away by this giant green snake. It was her. It was the girl who stayed with me in the coffin when I was 9, during that near-death experience. So she never really left. Instead, she was dormant in the spirit snake bracelet my mom gave me when I was little. But just as the green snake was about to lash out, that blood-curdling wail suddenly echoed again from outside the courtyard. Without warning, a gust of eerie wind swept through the area. It was as if the light from the sky was instantly sucked away. The whole courtyard plunged into a deathly gloom. Two tall and lanky, shadowy figures wearing tall hats silently pierced through the rain. They're underworld messengers from hell. They followed the aura of death I accidentally released earlier, and finally tracked me down. The green snake still stood firmly in front of me, blocking the way, but I clearly noticed its massive body was actually trembling violently. It stared intently at the two shadowy figures outside the courtyard gate, showing extreme fear in the thicket. But it didn't retreat a single step, because it couldn't withstand the terrifying oppressive force brought by the hellish messengers. The corner of its mouth actually overflowed with shocking blood. But Jiang Shuman and the villagers couldn't see the underworld messengers outside the gate at all. From their point of view, all they saw was this snake that had just shown up with such a dramatic entrance, suddenly stopped dead in its tracks, shaking all over, even coughing up blood. I thought it was some kind of formidable monster. Turns out it was just a dying snake, barely clinging to life. Jiang Shuman picked herself up from the muddy ground. Looking at the weak Qing snake and me, she didn't even try to hide the mockery and disdain in her eyes. Chen, and you and that dead snake of yours, you're both useless garbage. Today, this young lady isn't going to dirty her hands. You monster pair can just stay in this broken-down ancestral hall, slowly waiting to die. Let's go. Jiang Shuman turned around with a sneer, taking the other 4 young ladies with her, climbing into the luxury car on their high heels. When the villagers saw this, they were afraid of being cursed. They scattered in a panic, scrambling out of the courtyard. I gritted my teeth, watching their taillights disappear in the distance. Humiliation and rage nearly made my chest explode. The moment that fancy car drove off, the Grim Reapers outside the door moved their 2 dark soul-reaping chains. They were heading straight for the top of my head with the air of utter death. Then the Qing snake let out a desperate hiss, resolutely burning its own life force. Its essence and blood violently smashed open those 2 soul-reaping chains. Amidst the Grim Reaper's furious roars, it scooped up my heavily injured body and turned into a white light, forcibly escaping into the deep mountains. We fled for a long time. At first, the Qing snake deliberately avoided trees, but seeing the sound of the Swona horn behind us getting louder and more ear-piercing, the Qing snake started accelerating in a straight line like crazy. Boom, boom. I don't know how many towering trees we knocked down. Only after the sound of the Swona horn behind us gradually faded away did we crash heavily into a dilapidated mountain god temple. The giant Qing snake coiled around me, a faint, cold white light radiating from its body. Within the light, the graceful outline of a stunningly beautiful girl was faintly visible, just like what I vaguely saw in the coffin when I was 9 years old. But that light and shadow only lasted for a few seconds, before flickering violently. The spiritual power was exhausted. The white light dissipated, couldn't transform into a human form. It could only tightly wrap its cold snake body around me, gently pressing its tongue against my burning wound. In a daze, I felt the runaway death energy within me, flowing out of my body little by little, following its guidance. After a long time, I finally regained consciousness, but it was weakly slumped on the broken walls. Even lifting its head seemed incredibly difficult. An ethereal yet extremely weak voice sounded directly in my mind. I was already suffering from cold poison. I was hit by the Grim Reapers just now, and I also absorbed your death energy. I need to sleep for a while. Looking at its dim pupils and body full of scars, my heart ached like it was being twisted. I didn't know what to say. I could only hug its cold body tightly with red eyes. It gently rubbed its tongue against my cheek. The voice in my mind had a hint of resolution. You're clinging to life by feeding off borrowed yang energy from the past, and I'm healing with the dragon energy inside you. But now, both of those things have been stolen. You have to get them back within a year, or we're both gonna die. But they already destroyed the marriage contract. I kept replaying the scene in front of the funeral hall in my head. My fists clenched tightly. Your mother's plan was for you to marry them. That way, every night, you could be nourished by the yang energy from their bodies, slowly washing away the death energy. But that plan is kind of tame. There's actually a more aggressive way. What do you mean, a more aggressive way? I asked, confused. It's hard to explain. The process is pretty much the same. But you gotta be tougher. Always be in control. Make them give up fighting back. That way, not only will the dragon energy return to you, you'll also have the chance to drain their yang energy in return. But I still wanted to ask more. Qing Snake gently pressed her tail against my lips. Just survive. Get back all the dragon energy and yang energy within a year. As soon as she finished speaking, she transformed into a streak of light and turned into a string of ordinary-looking green bracelet. I stood in the empty mountain temple, looking at my home burned to ashes below. I made a solemn vow in my heart. I'm gonna fight my way back to the county, step by step. I'm gonna make those 5 high and mighty heiresses pay me back the lives they owe me with interest. I'm gonna watch them climb to the highest peak, and then I'm gonna personally drag them down into the abyss. 3 months later, deep in the most secluded alley in the county, a high-end funeral shop called Eternal Rest Pavilion opened. The shop doesn't sell ordinary wreaths and paper money. It only displays extremely realistic, high-end paper figures arranged according to the Chiman Duanjia formation. I changed into a sharply tailored black and gold tang suit, and wore a half-dark mask. I became the owner of this shop. I don't have the capital to go head-to-head with the 5 great families, but my eyes can see through their destinies. On the first day of business, I made a special trip to the wealthy district of the county. From afar, I saw the head of the Shin family, one of the 5 wealthiest merchants, getting into his car surrounded by a group of bodyguards. Just one glance, and I noticed a darkness between his eyebrows, a purple aura looming over him. I personally made a paper figure with his birth date written on it, and sent it along with a sheet of black mulberry paper to the Shin family's gate. The Shin family head flew into a rage, immediately arriving with his bodyguards to confront me. He smashed my shop sign, and publicly pointed at me, spewing insults. I sat in my grand chair, coldly watching him through my mask. Mr. Shin, no need to get so worked up. Within 3 days, if something happens to you, your family will naturally come to me for funeral arrangements. At that time, I'll ensure your family is safe from deception. You're just a crazy nut job pretending to be a mystic. Dare to curse me? Just you wait. The Shin family head laughed in anger, cursing as he left with his men. But on the 3rd day, late at night, the Shin family head suffered a bizarre accident and died on the spot. As soon as the news broke, a major earthquake struck the county's elite circles. The next morning, the Shin family's eldest son arrived with box after box of cash, kneeling outside the Eternal Rest Pavilion, kowtowing frantically, begging me to handle the Shin family's funeral. I accepted an exorbitant fee and used some tricks to quell the Shin family's troubles. With just this one incident, the name of the mysterious master of the Eternal Rest Pavilion completely shook the county. Everyone knew that the master's mulberry paper meant the King of Hell had marked you. To receive it meant certain death. But if the master agreed to take your business, it meant snatching you from the hands of the King of Hell. I finally had the capital to sit at the same table as those 5 women in this arena of fame and fortune. After figuring out the details of the 5 major families, I set my sights on my first target, Su Mengyao, the heiress of the Su family. Su Mengyao was extremely ambitious. She desperately wanted to lead the Su family to replace the Zhang family and become the top dog in the county's business world. But recently, because the Zhang family was secretly causing trouble, several of the Su family's major projects had one disaster after another. She was on the verge of going bankrupt. She was a woman desperately searching for a lifeline and incredibly easy to manipulate. One stormy evening, I sent a black mulberry paper with his name on it to the CEO's office at the Su Corporation. The arrogant Su Mengyao didn't believe in superstitions at first. She even came to my shop with bodyguards, cursing me as a con artist. She even threatened to have her people wreck my place. But lately, I'd been gaining respect by handling funerals for the powerful, and built up quite a reputation. The neighbors and some big bosses who I'd helped all came to defend me, so she couldn't succeed. She could only hold in her anger and make threats. I ignored her ranting. Since she didn't believe it, I'd help her believe. Over the next 3 days, I took advantage of the night to sneak into the Su family's properties and places he frequented. I did a little tampering. First, I loosened the cables on his company's private elevator, causing it to plummet. He barely escaped with his life. Then I anonymously reported the well-known loopholes in his investment projects. That's gonna land him with a massive lawsuit. Finally, I secretly messed with the brakes on his sports car. Almost caused him to rear-end a semi on his way home from work. Smashed up the front end pretty bad. When the shadow of death and the fear of going broke finally hit him hard, the stuck-up, spoiled little rich girl finally lowered her high and mighty head. Late in the dead of night on the 4th day, the wooden doors of the Longevity Pavilion were knocked. Su Mengyao was soaking wet, wearing sunglasses and a mask. She frantically pushed the door open and came inside. "Sir, please, sir, save me." She pulled down her mask. Her delicate face was etched with despair. She dropped to her knees in front of my great-grandfather. I sat in the shadows, looking down on her from behind my mask. This woman who was filming me and humiliating me in the mud just a few months ago. "Miss Su, have you been feeling like you're running into brick walls lately? Even like your life's in danger?" I deliberately lowered my voice. Her voice was raspy and cold. "Actually, it's not just because your fate is incomplete. It's also because Jiang Shuman secretly siphoned off your Su family's luck." Su Mengyao was already extremely wary and guarded against Jiang Shuman. Hearing this, she abruptly raised her head, her eyes filled with shock and resentment. "It really is Jiang Shuman. It must be that bitch. As long as you can help me get through this tribulation, help me crush the Jiang family. What do you want? I gave a cold laugh. I didn't give her any superstitious nonsense about drawing charms or telling fortunes. Instead, I directly tossed her an extremely detailed folder. It contained information from the past few months. I'd secretly investigated the Jiang family and compiled it. It exposed the major loopholes in their South City development project. For the next month, I, under the guise of the mysterious Mr. Zhou, became Su Mengyao biggest backer. Initially, Su Mengyao looked at the top-secret Jiang family documents I gave her. She asked me, full of doubt and surprise, why would a guy who runs a stone shop have access to so many business secrets? She pressed me to reveal who I really was. I sat in the shadows, gently swirling my wine in a tall glass, my tone laced with the lazy arrogance and disdain of someone in a superior position. I told her, fortune-telling is just a smokescreen. To be honest, I'm from the capital. These documents were just casually dug up by my people. That little piece of cake that is the Jiang family, I don't even look at it twice. My goal is to take over the entire county's operation. I just happen to need an obedient proxy. It just depends on whether Miss Su dares to do it. These words completely shattered Su Mengyao's defenses. In her eyes, I had become a super-connected, unfathomable princeling from the capital. Her initial respect for me quickly transformed into a deep infatuation and a morbid admiration. She followed my strategies to the letter. She not only miraculously resurrected the Su family, but also turned the tables and snatched away the Jiang family's long-planned South City Development District megaproject. This battle made Su Mengyao the talk of the town among the county's socialites. She began to subtly probe at various high-end parties. He was constantly hinting that he had a powerful fiancé backing him, a big shot from the capital who could control the weather. Using my name, he gathered a large number of connections that originally belonged to the Jiang family. His arrogance once overshadowed Jiang Shuman. I coldly watched his ambition grow to the extreme. He didn't know that the so-called fatal weaknesses of the Jiang family that I revealed to him were all deliberately fabricated by me in order to set up this grand scheme. False information. People fall harder when they fall from the highest point. Finally, Su Mengyao couldn't hold back any longer. In order to completely establish his position as the top dog in the county's business world, he booked the most luxurious hotel in the county. He held an extremely extravagant celebration banquet. At this banquet, he invited all the celebrities, including the daughters of the 5 major families. He had long spread the word that the legendary mysterious big shot from the capital tonight would make a grand appearance as her fiancé. The banquet was brilliantly lit that night. Su Mengyao wore a deep purple evening dress covered in crushed diamonds. She stood under the spotlight with a proud expression. Everyone, today is a big day. Su Mengyao glanced provocatively at Jiang Shuman, who was sitting at the main table with a gloomy face. From today on, our Su family will comprehensively integrate the resources of the 5 major families. And the gentleman behind me will officially meet everyone tonight. The audience burst into thunderous applause. Everyone was eagerly waiting. At this moment, I was holding a glass of red wine, standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of a high-rise building across from the hotel. I looked at the constantly flashing calls from Su Mengyao on my phone screen, and a cruel sneer appeared on the corner of my mouth. Time passed minute by minute. Hundreds of pairs of eyes stared intently at the door of the banquet hall. But the door remained tightly closed. There was no movement. Su Mengyao's smile began to freeze. Fine beads of cold sweat oozed from her forehead. She hid in a corner, dialing my number again and again. But the only response was a cold, mechanical voice. Miss Su, where is your fiancé with the connections to the heavens? Jiang Shuman held a glass of red wine and walked over in high heels. She strutted onto the stage and mercilessly laughed out loud in public. Don't tell me you made this all up to hype yourself up. How pathetic. Just to steal the spotlight, you resort to such low-down lies. The whole place erupted in suppressed laughter and whispers. Those sharp voices of judgment instantly shredded Su Mengyao's pride to pieces. She stood in the center of the brightly lit stage, trembling all over. Under everyone's mocking and contemptuous gazes, Su Mengyao covered her face and stumbled out of the banquet hall in a panic. Inside the hotel's top floor, a completely private, top-tier VIP suite, I leaned back on the sofa, quietly waiting. Bang! The suite door was thrown open violently. Su Mengyao, with red eyes, staggered in. She slammed the door shut and locked it tight. "Honey, why didn't you answer my calls?" She rushed up to me, her face full of distress and anxiety. She was clearly trembling with anger, but didn't dare to get mad at me at all. She could only forcibly suppress her anger, her voice filled with a collapsing sob and a humble plea. "Do you even know how much that bitch Jiang Shuman humiliated me down there? Please, honey, as long as you come downstairs with me, whatever you want me to do, I'm willing to do it." I remained unmoved. She actually took the initiative to unbutton her shirt, tilted her head back, closed her eyes, and slowly brought her face closer to mine, obediently waiting for my kiss. But the next second, I suddenly raised my hand and grabbed her by the neck. "Honey, what are you doing?" Su Mengyao opened her eyes in horror, not understanding why her fiancé, who had always favored her, would suddenly act like a completely different person. I leaned close to her ear and spoke in my original undisguised voice, word by word. "Miss Su, when you were recording videos with your phone in the funeral hall back then, why didn't I see you being so affectionate?" Su Mengyao's whole body stiffened. Her pupils instantly dilated to the extreme. I slowly raised my other hand. Right in front of him, I tore off the half of the dark mask that concealed my identity. With the faint light coming in from the window, he finally saw my face clearly. Time seemed to stand still at this moment. In Su Mengyao's beautiful eyes, which were originally full of infatuation and ambition, there was only earth-shattering horror left at this moment, and fear that penetrated to the bone. "It can't be Chanan. This is absolutely impossible." He let out a shrill scream, desperately struggling to get away from me. The backer she was so proud of, the male god she wanted to meet, was actually the country bumpkin she once tried every means to humiliate. "Let go of me, you filthy man." Extreme humiliation drove her mad. He clawed at my arm, struggling to reach a sterling silver letter opener on the table, and stabbed it fiercely towards my chest. My eyes turned cold. I easily took the knife and kicked the back of his knee. With a thud, the proud young lady knelt heavily in front of me. I let go of my hand and threw a master-slave blood contract on the carpet in front of her. "Sign it, and I'll go down with you." Su Mengyao saw the words on it, trembling with anger. A trace of determination flashed in her eyes. "You're dreaming. Even if I jump from here, I will never sign something like this for you, a country bumpkin." After saying that, he actually suddenly got up, wanting to crash into the French window. My eyes turned cold. I grabbed her hair and dragged her back hard and slammed her heavily on the carpet. "You want to die?" I grabbed her chin, forcing her to look up at me. A cruel sneer curled at the corner of my lips. "What do you think will happen if you jump now? Jiang Shuman will be downstairs popping champagne in celebration. He'll swallow up all of your Su family's businesses and drive your parents to ruin. Most importantly, after he knows the truth about your suicide, he'll laugh at you for the rest of his life. His laughter will probably be crystal clear to you, even in the afterlife." Speaking of Jiang Shuman, Su Mengyao's unfocused eyes suddenly snapped into focus. Her body went limp and she collapsed to her knees. I crouched down and tilted his chin up, adding honestly, "And also, if you die, who's going to avenge you against the Jiang family? And who's going to avenge you against me?" Su Mengyao stared intently at the ground, at that blood contract, symbolizing a warrior's humiliation. Her whole body trembled violently. On one side was losing everything and being laughed to death by her mortal enemy. On the other, selling her soul to a former aunt to be his dog. She trembled as she bit her finger, tears of humiliation streaming down her face. She pressed her fingerprint onto the blood contract. The moment the blood contract was formed, a red mark was branded onto her collarbone. Then it vanished. From this second on, if she disobeys my orders, she'll suffer excruciating pain. "All signed up? Now can you come downstairs with me?" She still gritted her teeth, trying to maintain the last shred of her pride, turning her face to urge me. It seems he hasn't grasped the gravity of the situation yet. It's time to teach him a lesson. I sneered. Sitting down on the sofa, I said slowly to him, "Now that you've signed the master-servant blood contract, shouldn't you act like a servant? Call me master and let me hear it." Su Mengyao froze. He glared at me, burning with anger. But the next second, He felt an agonizing pain as he defied the blood pact. Su Mengyao clutched her chest in pain. After persevering for a long time, she finally lowered her head in despair. She opened her mouth with extreme humiliation. Master, hearing that address, my anger subsided slightly. I put my mask back on. I transformed back into that inscrutable big shot from the capital. I led her downstairs. 5 minutes later, the doors of the banquet hall were pushed open. To the shock of everyone present, Su Mengyao linked arms with me and re-entered the spotlight. No one knew the kind of living hell, the fear and humiliation, hidden beneath her proudly raised head and her forced, beautiful smile. She had to constantly watch my expression out of the corner of her eye, carefully coordinating with me. She had to complete this grand play of the Queen's return in front of Jiang Shuman. That night, under my secret suppression, the several business traps set by Jiang Shuman were easily crushed by me. I even turned the tables and caused the Jiang family to lose billions in cash flow. Jiang Shuman left in a fluster, her face ashen, and Su Mengyao, amid the respectful gazes of everyone, was completely transformed by me into a perfect, radiant mole. Since Su Mengyao became my puppet, I used her hand to easily infiltrate the internal network of the 5 major families. Although she hated me to the core, under the pressure of the blood pact and driven by her hatred for the Jiang family, she had no choice but to obey. Whenever she performed poorly or tried to be clever, she would experience excruciating pain. She could only kneel at my feet, begging for mercy with cold sweat. A month later, Su Mengyao risked her life to smuggle a top-secret notebook from the Jiang family's secret room. Looking at that notebook, I finally uncovered the truth of this earth-shattering conspiracy that had been going on for 18 years. It turned out that there were no reclusive experts from the outside world at all. The one who was really pulling the strings behind the scenes was Jiang Dashan himself, the head of the Jiang family. This old fox was ostensibly a charitable philanthropist, but in secret, he had been practicing extremely vicious dark arts. He used the Jiang family's wealth as the richest family. He secretly tampered with the 5 elements formation my mom set up back then. He not only intercepted the dragon energy the villagers got from me, and the yang energy I borrowed from the villagers, but even the dragon energy of the other 4 families was secretly drained away by him through the formation. I can understand him absorbing dragon energy for the dragon jade. I can understand that, but what is he absorbing yang energy for? He can't be like me, not a living person, right? My subordinate Su Mengyao knelt beside me, trembling with anger. Jiang Dashan, that old bastard. How are we going to deal with him next? Humph, sooner or later he'll be hoisted by his own petard. But we can give him a little push. I looked at a blurry photo in the notebook and sneered. The photo was of the golden coffin with the 5 elements hands that my mom made for the Jiang family back then. At this moment, the snakeskin originally sealing the coffin lid already has dense cracks because Jiang Jia overused the 5 elements coffin. The snakeskin on the coffin lid is about to give way. Once the coffin bursts, the Jiang family will definitely suffer a backlash. No wonder Jiang Shuman insisted on taking your blue bracelet that day. It turned out it was to get snakeskin to repair the coffin. The 4 of us were all used by him. Su Mengyao suddenly realized. Gritting her teeth, she said, "Master, what should we do now? Should we just expose this directly and unite the other 3 families to destroy the Jiang family?" Su Mengyao asked eagerly. "Do you really think I'm some prince from the capital circle? Speaking of real strength, even if the 4 of you join forces, you're probably no match for the Jiang family." I stood up. Through the dim window of the longevity pavilion, the corners of my mouth curled up in a cold smile. Since he wants snakeskin to repair his coffin, then we will personally send him one. I turned to look at Su Mengyao. "Mengyao, this is the final battle. Use all your resources to spread a rumor to the outside world. Say that at the underground black market auction a month from now, a rare 1,000-year-old snakeskin will appear. I want Jiang Jia to go bankrupt for this snakeskin and be doomed forever." A month later, the county's most secretive underground black market, a so-called top-tier auction, was about to begin. As I instructed, Su Mengyao not only stirred up a frenzy about the Millennium snakeskin, but also specifically invited the young ladies from the other 3 families. I sat quietly in the most hidden VIP box on the 2nd floor, looking down at the bustling venue below. The auctioneer downstairs unveiled the red cloth on the display stand. A huge snakeskin, emitting a faint glow, appeared before everyone's eyes. Next up is tonight's headlining item, Millennium Snakeskin. I turned to look at Su Mengyao beside me, and casually asked, "How much cash does the Su family have on hand right now?" A trace of embarrassment flashed across Su Mengyao's face. She bit the bullet and whispered, "The celebration banquet you held before, Master, left us with very little. We only have 30 million left." Before Su Mengyao could finish speaking, the auctioneer's voice came from downstairs. "Starting bid, 100 million. The hand holding my teacup paused slightly. I glanced at him speechlessly. Su Mengyao looked at me, covered in sweat. "Master, I'll try to stall them." Downstairs, Zhang Dasha looked at the snake skin with the fanatical eyes of a gambler. 200 million. Zhang Dasha raised his paddle without hesitation, determined to win. 300 million. From a box on the second floor, Su Mengyao coldly raised her paddle. This sudden, exorbitant bid made the entire venue gasp. A staff member immediately ran into the box, wanting to verify. Su Mengyao took a deep breath. The arrogance of a young lady from a wealthy family instantly erupted. She glared with an extremely sharp, deadly gaze. "Only 300 million? You think that's enough to intimidate me, Yanzi, the head of the Su family? Do you know who's sitting behind me? Get out." The staff member was intimidated by this aura. After all, he must have heard the rumors that the Su family had climbed into the good graces of the capital's elite son. He quickly apologized and retreated. I sat in the shadows, nodded in satisfaction. Zhang Dashi's face changed. He gritted his teeth and raised the price by 800 million. Su Mengyao was expressionless. The price skyrocketed. The air in the entire venue seemed to freeze. When the price was raised to a suffocating 1.5 billion, Zhang Dashi completely lost it. He suddenly stood up. The terrifying pressure of the family head was instantly released. She pointed at Su Mengyao on the second floor. Her voice was full of oppression. "Little miss of the Su family, you are so ignorant of the rules. Do you want to represent the Su family in a complete war against our 4 major families?" Faced with this huge accusation, cold sweat dripped from Su Mengyao's forehead. She subconsciously glanced at me. I nodded slightly in acknowledgement. He directly forced the Zhang family into a dead end. Su Mengyao wiped her sweat. Her clear and cold voice spread throughout the venue. "Uncle Zhang, strength is respected on the auction floor. If your Zhang family can't even come up with this much wealth, how can you even have the nerve to mention starting a war with my Su family?" Then Su Mengyao raised her paddle again. 2.8 billion. Zhang Dashi was trembling with anger. But he had to get this snake slew today. His eyes were bloodshot. He told Zhang Shuman to immediately count all the land deeds. "You 3 billion. Zhang Dashi's voice was obviously trembling. Su Mengyao glanced at me. She chuckled lightly and put down the paddle in her hand. 3 billion sold. As the auction hammer fell, Zhang Dashi slumped back into his chair. He was covered in sweat, but a ruthless look flashed in his eyes. For this snake slew, he not only emptied all of the Zhang family's cash flow, he even mortgaged the core assets. Next, he must implement the plan in advance. Sure enough, after the auction ended, Zhang Dashi suddenly stepped onto the stage. He extended an invitation to everyone present, hoping everyone would accompany him to the Zhang family villa. Bear witness with him to the magic of this millennia-old snakeskin shedding. With my knack for reading people and their fortunes, I naturally understood what he meant. This invitation is most likely a banquet of treachery, a one-way trip. Accompanying him were not only those 3 daughters, but also several prominent and wealthy business tycoons from the county as escorts. Everyone reluctantly got into the Zhang family's cars. I also followed along with Su Mengyao. The desolate mountain villa was built on an extremely mean location. Following the secret passage all the way down, I never expected that deep beneath this villa was actually hidden a very large-scale main burial chamber. In the center of the main burial chamber sat a huge golden coffin. The snakeskin that was originally sealed on the coffin lid had cracked in countless places. I activated my yin-yang eyes. I could clearly see strands of golden dragon energy flowing out along the cracks. Everyone was led into this eerie main burial chamber. Looking at this bizarre scene, they immediately felt a sense of unease. Several wealthy businessmen even started to back out. Zhang Dashin, however, was filled with greed. He carefully held the millennia-old snakeskin and slowly covered the top of the coffin with it, trying to repair the cracks. When the sacred object covered the coffin top, the fit was seamless. Accompanied by a burst of dazzling light, the five elements formation, which was on the verge of collapse, miraculously began to operate again. "It's done. It's done." Jiang Dashan laughed maniacally, and suddenly turned to look at the crowd behind him, his eyes bursting with undisguised greed and murderous intent. "Uncle Jiang, what do you mean by this?" The three daughters and several important figures retreated in fear. The next second, Jiang Dashan suddenly opened his arms. Instantly, several scarlet rays of light shot out from the formation, like tangible tentacles, firmly entangling the three girls and the living people present. Then, an extremely bizarre scene appeared. The pure white yang energy from everyone's bodies was continuously extracted, transforming into streaks of white light that directly converged into Jiang Dashan's body. Meanwhile, the dazzling golden energy overflowing from the coffin's cracks was entirely poured into Jiang Shuman, who was standing to the side. "Chun An's dead man's true dragon energy is just right for reshaping my daughter's true phoenix destiny and solidifying my Jiang family's century-old foundation as the richest family." Jiang Chen felt the surging power within him. He roared madly, "And you Ant's life force will help me be reborn. So that's how it is. Using dragon energy to cultivate fortune. Using life force to extend life. This is the Jiang family scheme of stealing the heavens for the past 18 years. Standing in the center of the formation, Jiang Shuman enjoyed the baptism of golden dragon energy. An arrogant look appeared on her face, as if she looked down on everything. Just as this father and daughter were immersed in their dreams, the millennium snake skin on top of the coffin suddenly flashed an extremely strange dark light, followed by a deafening loud noise, came from the center of the main tomb chamber. The snake skin instantly detonated the coffin. The terrifying aura accumulated for 18 years. The formation channel was forcibly reversed. Jiang Shuman and Jiang Chan were instantly backlashed. Jiang Shuman suddenly spat out a large mouthful of black blood. The golden dragon energy that had been forcibly poured into her body instantly dissipated. She clutched her chest in pain and fell to the ground. Her originally fair and noble, beautiful face was now completely bloodless. "No, this is impossible, my fortune." Jiang Shuman screamed in pain. "It seems that this snake skin I carefully prepared. The Jiang family head is quite satisfied." Accompanied by a cold voice, the gate of the main tomb chamber was kicked open by me. I was wearing a black outfit, and slowly walked down the steps with Su Mengyao. In the horrified eyes of Jiang Chan and Jiang Shuman, I coldly tore off the half-mask on my face. "It's you, the dead man that concubine adopted back then." Jiang Chen stared at me intently. I ignored Jiang Chen. Instead, I walked straight to the kneeling. Jiang Shuman, with a face full of pain, slowly lifted her chin. "Long time no see. Miss me? My fiancé, Chen-in. How could you still be alive? You were obviously cut off from support." Jiang Shuman's eyes were full of fear. "The things your Jiang family stole. Today, it's time to return them with interest." I coldly stood up and looked at Jiang Chan on the side. "The Jiang family's gonna pay." But Jiang Dashi didn't break down and beg for mercy like I thought he would. He steadied himself and got up. The shock in his eyes faded away, replaced by a hysterical kind of madness. "What a masterful deception. Chen-in, I really underestimated your family." Jiang Dashi stood up straight. His body tore his expensive tang suit to shreds, revealing an extremely gaunt body covered in bizarre, black varicose veins. "Too bad. You're still too young. Do you even know why I absorb yang energy?" Jiang Dashi's voice turned eerie. "It's because I'm the same as you. I was once a dead man too." As soon as he said that, everyone present gasped. The next second, everyone saw Jiang Dashi's body start to undergo a terrifying transformation. His spine arched high, and two huge, black-haired fleshy wings burst out. His jawbone stretched out grotesquely, revealing a mouth full of sharp fangs. Those originally cloudy eyes instantly turned into scarlet vertical pupils. Everyone was stunned. They didn't expect the head of the Jiang family to be a bat demon who'd been dead for a long time. "Today I'll swallow you all alive." A blood sacrifice to the blade. Jiang Dashi let out a deafening roar. The huge fleshy wings on his back flapped violently, turning into a blur, heading straight for me. Too fast. I only heard a bang. An irresistible force slammed into my chest. My whole body flew back like a kite with a broken string, crashing hard against the solid stone wall. My internal organs felt like they were being twisted into pieces by a knife with intense pain. I coughed up a mouthful of blood. My mistress, Su Mengyao, covered her mouth, trying to run over and help me, but the terrifying aura emanating from Jiang Dashi sent her flying. Jiang Shuman, who had been rolling on the ground in pain, saw this. The fear in her eyes instantly disappeared, and was replaced by a maniacal scream. She staggered to her feet, walking towards me step by step. Chenin, you're such a pathetic loser. I might as well let you in on another secret. Your mother's illness actually could have been cured, but if he didn't die, he would always be a threat to us. So we paid to have his diagnosis changed. Bastard. I gritted my teeth and choked him. But Jiang Dashan just glared at me and knocked me to the ground. Jiang Shuman looked down at me, severely injured on the ground. She stomped hard on my chest, leaning down close to my face. She said viciously, I'm going to break your bones inch by inch, and then I'm going to skin and debone that dead snake of yours. After saying that, she reached for my wrist. I gritted my teeth, my eyes bloodshot, desperately urging the death energy within me. Soon, the intermittent sound of Swona horns came from a distance. Dad, no need to leave any alive. Kill them all. Jiang Shuman laughed wildly. Jiang Dashan snorted coldly, flapping his wings. A gust of foul-smelling wind instantly swept through the entire main tomb chamber. He flashed and grabbed a wealthy businessman who was paralyzed with fear, opening his bloody mouth wide. He bit down on the man's neck. Glug, glug. The chilling sound of blood sucking echoed in the silent main tomb chamber. The wealthy businessman didn't even have time to scream. His body shriveled up at a speed visible to the naked eye. He died instantly. Not bad. Too bad there's not enough meat. Tender meat. Jiang Dashan disgustedly threw away the dried-up corpse and turned his bloodshot eyes, greedily fixing his gaze on the remaining 3 young ladies, and Su Mengyao, who was hiding in the corner. Chonin, save me. We were wrong back then. The 3 young ladies desperately crawled towards me, but the bat demon had already silently arrived. Above the heads of the 3 young ladies, drooling. Just then, the sky and earth suddenly changed color. There was a deafening rumble. The pitch-black night sky was suddenly illuminated by 5 beams of light shooting towards the heavens in different colors. These 5 beams of light shot out from the homes of the 5 major families, including this one. They pierced straight into the clouds. The colors of the 5 beams corresponded to metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Could it be the 5 elements coffins that my mom made back then? As the 5 beams of light converged in the sky, a gigantic, all-encompassing summoning formation took shape above the desolate mountain villa. An ancient and desolate aura, exuding the terrifying pressure of the primordial era, descended from the sky, weighing heavily on everyone's hearts. The sky seemed to be torn apart by a pair of invisible giant hands. Amidst the deafening thunder, a jet-black, scaled, and terrifying evil dragon, with scales as hard as steel, was brought into the world with a savage energy that could destroy everything, forcibly summoned by this extremely dense dragon energy and Yin energy. Jiang Shuman's smile instantly froze. The evil dragon coiled in midair. Its cold and merciless giant vertical pupils penetrated directly through the roof of the villa, not even glancing at the cultural relics on the ground, but staring intently at the bat demon in the main burial chamber. That was radiating dragon energy. Immediately afterward, the evil dragon let out a soul-piercing roar, opening its bloody maw, large enough to swallow a truck. The giant mouth was like a black lightning bolt, smashing directly through the roof of the villa, rushing down towards Jiang Dashan. With an earth-shattering momentum. No, what is that thing? Get out of here! Get out of here! Jiang Dashan screamed in despair, desperately flapping his fleshy wings, trying to escape, but the evil dragon was too fast. There was a cracking sound, accompanied by a teeth-aching sound of bones shattering. The evil dragon bit off half of Jiang Dashan's body in one bite, and with a sudden upward jerk, swallowed this bat demon who had stolen the yang energy of our village whole. It smacked its lips as if not fully satisfied. Its massive body coiled on the ruins of the shattered main burial chamber. The cold thicket slowly turned. A scarlet tongue greedily licked Jiang Shuman, who was already paralyzed with fear on the ground, as well as the other 3 young ladies shivering in the corner. It seemed to be hesitating which appetizer to eat first. But the next second, Ajiao's gaze suddenly jumped over them, locking onto me. Such pure dragon energy. I didn't expect there to be such a tonic in this world. With an earth-shattering roar, Ajiao unhesitatingly abandoned the four women and lunged at me with its bloody maw wide open. Just at this critical moment, there was a crisp cracking sound. The cyan bracelet on the ground shattered inch by inch. A dazzling cyan light soared into the sky, followed by a huge cyan snake phantom blocking Ajiao's bloody maw. Without fear, it met the bloody maw head-on. With a loud bang, the cyan snake was blasted away by Ajiao's powerful force into the air, and transformed into a girl in cyan clothes, landing in front of me. At this moment, her aura was erratic, and blood kept spilling from the corners of her mouth. What exactly is going on? I helped her up, and asked anxiously. The girl coughed up a mouthful of blood, and said to me, "This is the deal your mother made with me back then." She knew that her days were numbered, and worried that after her death, these 5 families would repay kindness with hatred, so she left a hidden formation in the 5 Elements Pass. Once you, as the source, are seriously injured, the dragon energy will get out of control. The formation will activate a summoning of the Ajiao sealed under this county to indiscriminately attack everyone present. And I, having grown up, have a chance to take you out of here. After explaining all this, the girl stared at Ajiao in the sky, her voice filled with determination. "Chinen, I'll hold him back. You run." However, I stood there with a gloomy face, not moving an inch. "Chinen, what's wrong? Run." I ignored his shouts. Instead, I walked straight towards the 3 young ladies crawling towards me in despair. "Chinen, save us. We were wrong before." I took out 3 blood contracts from my arms and threw them in front of the 3 young ladies. "If you want to live, sign it." I looked down at them condescendingly. My voice was like the Grim Reaper's judgment. "Sign the blood contract. Sever your noble destinies. Cause and effect will return my dragon energy to me." At this moment, Ajiao had already pounced on me. The girl in green mobilized her magic power. A cyan barrier appeared around her body, blocking Ajiao in front. "Chun, and taking back the dragon energy now will only make Ajiao target you more. Why bother with them?" I sighed deeply with my back to her. My voice sounded particularly clear in the deathly silent tomb. "Because you lied to me." The girl's whole body trembled, as if struck by lightning. "You never intended to escape with me, did you?" I turned around and looked into her clear eyes. "In the game set up by my mother, you are just a pawn, aren't you? As long as Ajiao eats you, she can transform into a dragon and ascend. Naturally, she won't come looking for me again. Your mother's move was also out of helplessness. If you don't leave, we will all die." Only a long hiss was heard. Ajiao, with a suffocating stench, knocked away the girl in green and swooped down towards me. I ignored Ajiao, just looking deeply at the girl in green. "I don't care what kind of deal my mom made with you back then. That has nothing to do with me, because now the person playing the game is not her, but me. And I don't want you to die." After saying that, I slowly turned around, looked up at Ajiao. An unprecedented fierce aura burst out in my eyes. The sky darkened. The entire tomb was filled with howling wind. Ajiao's speed was getting slower and slower. I spread out my hands. 4 beams of blood-red light lit up from the collarbones of the 4 girls who had signed the blood pact with me. Immediately, the massive dragon energy inside them, along with the explosion of the coffin, and the dragon energy scattered in the air, all transformed into countless brilliant golden rays. Like rivers flowing into the sea, they surged frantically into my body. "Nobody's leaving here today," I roared to the sky, unleashing all the death energy within me without holding back. A dense, almost tangible, black death energy, accompanied by dazzling golden dragon energy, erupted from my body with a bang. I was lifted by this terrifying power, slowly levitating in mid-air. Golden and black lights intertwined behind me, faintly coalescing into a massive black ancient dragon. Everyone present who witnessed this scene, including the girl in green, widened their eyes in shock. At this moment, I finally understood my origins. The dragon energy within me wasn't absorbed from the dragon coffin. On the contrary, the reason the dragon coffin is called the dragon coffin is because its master, I was a dragon in my previous life. The next second, the sound of Swona horns, dee-na-dee-dee, echoed around. The main tomb's temperature plummeted to freezing. Several figures holding soul-snatching chains, Shadowy figures of underworld messengers wearing tall hats strode through the walls on a ghostly wind. They locked onto Chun and, suspended in midair. Chen and no. The girl in green watched the approaching underworld messengers. She despairingly covered me. Ignoring the underworld messengers, I stepped into the air, walking towards that coquettish thing coiled in midair. My voice shook the entire tomb. Your world is only a world of one Swana song. Before the song ends, I'll gobble up all your tsundra tendencies. It trembled all over after hearing that. The bushes were full of fear. It hurriedly spoke in human language, saying, "Calm down. We both belong to the dragon vein. Why must we perish together? Quickly retract your death energy. I'm leaving this county right now." I let out a cold, wild laugh. As long as Ajiao lives, there's always a threat to Qing Snake. And I'm already a dead dragon. What does it matter if I die again? The next second, the black dragon whiskers behind me let out a dragon's roar. Ajiao completely panicked. He whipped his tail violently, trying to smash the dome of the tomb, and flee in a panic. I took a sudden step into the void beneath my feet, creating a ripple of black. My entire being instantly vanished from the spot. The next second, I appeared out of thin air above Ajiao's head. I raised my right foot, my toe, lightly stepped on Ajiao's head. Ajiao, however, was as if struck by a meteorite, instantly smashing into the ground, stirring up a cloud of dust. As the dust dissipated, Ajiao's body was already embedded in the ground. His head shattered. A dragon's inner core rolled out. I landed at the edge of the pit, gasping for breath. The death aura on my body had reached its peak. The surrounding ghost soldiers slowly approached, their cold voices, lacking even a trace of human emotion. The soul-reaping chains in their hands rattled, carrying an irresistible law of the underworld, and suddenly came towards my neck. As a dead being, I was naturally suppressed, without any room to resist. I could only quietly await my own judgment. However, just as those cold chains were about to touch me, a youthful figure rushed over recklessly, blocking the chains and hugging me tightly. She cupped my face and kissed me with those cool, soft lips. Immediately afterwards, I felt an extremely pure yang energy pouring into my body through her lips and tongue. At the same time, the dense death energy on my body, enough to attract divine punishment, was forcibly absorbed into her own body. I wanted to push him away, but my whole body went weak. I had no strength. I could only watch helplessly as his body slowly turned gray. The next second, the soul-reaping chain changed its target. It clamped down hard on the neck of the girl who was radiating death. The hellish fork yanked forcefully. Her delicate body was violently dragged towards the ground, into the cracked open abyss of the underworld. "Let her go." I desperately tried to grab her hand. The girl let the chain drag her into the endless darkness. She looked at me and smiled, a heartbreaking smile. "Chinen, you guessed wrong. I'm not some pawn at all. Your mother found me in the cave of 10,000 ghosts. You asked me why I was there. I told you. I was waiting for a dragon. 1,000 years ago, he fell to the mortal realm to save me. Your mother cast a divination for me. She said if I protected you for 18 years and got you through your death tribulation, she would help me find that dragon." The girl looked at the increasingly clear image of the true dragon behind me. Her smile revealed endless relief and deep affection. I thought it was just a transaction. Only today do I understand. It wasn't a transaction. It was our destiny. With the last echo, the abyss closed. He was completely dragged underground by the Hellguard, leaving only me, standing alone in the desolate ruins. My brain was in intense pain. Memories from my past life flooded my mind, assaulting me, and my memories from this life. I pounded the ground weakly. My emotions gradually spiraled out of control. Suddenly, I opened my eyes. I grabbed the dragon pearl on the ground and swallowed it whole. The moment the inner core entered my stomach, the massive vitality of the dragon, mixed with the pure yang energy the girl had just transferred to me, exploded inside my body. The aura of life and death, a closed loop formed inside me. At this moment, I transformed into a true dragon, crossing the boundary between life and death. The ugly black scales on my body peeled away layer by layer. Replacing them were dazzling sprites radiating a sacred light. The lifeless shadow of the ancient dragon behind me now had full flesh and blood, transforming into a radiant, golden, five-clawed true dragon, roaring to the heavens. Its body became a beam of light piercing the sky, rushing towards the location where the girl disappeared. With a deafening crash, I used my claws to tear open the newly closed crack to the underworld. Braving the netherworld energy that felt like it would crush my soul, I charged towards the area without hesitation. In the endless darkness, I was like a bloodthirsty god of slaughter. My golden dragon claws tore apart the ghosts in my path. The earth-shattering dragon roar repelled 100,000 hell soldiers. I don't know how long I was killing, maybe days, maybe years. Finally, after cutting through the river of oblivion and smashing the bridge of helplessness, I saw that familiar green figure in front of the Hall of Yama. And King Yama was slowly walking out from the depths of the Hall of Yama. The ultimate, chilling pressure of the underworld enveloped the entire space. On the ruins of the Jiang family's main tomb chamber, sunlight pierced through the heavy clouds. The original 5 great families. Now, except for the Jiang family, the other 4 families have all signed a blood oath with me. They built a tomb on these ruins. Deep within the cemetery, a jade green bracelet is enshrined. The daughters of these 4 families come every week with their families to worship and repent before the bracelet. As the days passed, the fortunes of these 4 families stopped declining and gradually recovered. But the Jiang family suffered divine retribution after that incident. Their business collapsed completely, and they were removed from the ranks of the 5 great families. In the center of the ruins, Jiang Shuman cried, wanting to go in and pay her respects. But she was held back by the people from the other 4 families. Dust, please, forgive me. Jiang Shuman desperately cried out towards the bracelet in the distance. Not everyone can be forgiven. I never expect that the mistakes I made can be forgiven. Coming here is only out of guilt and gratitude. Su Mengyao walked up to Jiang Shuman with her 3 daughters, and coldly said to him, "What have you done all these years? What makes you think you deserve to be forgiven? Don't come here again." Just then, the ground suddenly began to shake violently. With a crack, the bluestone slab in the center of the ruins shattered. A golden light burst out of the ground, shooting straight into the sky. Amidst the crowd's exclamations, I held that unconscious girl in green, slowly rising from the crack, stepping back onto this land. Traces of the chilling aura of the underworld still lingered on me. My eyes were invincible. The moment the master saw me appear, Su Mengyao's knees instinctively buckled, and she knelt heavily on the ground. The other 3 daughters also knelt down when they saw this, not daring to breathe loudly. Jiang Shuman saw me as if he had grabbed the last straw. He crawled to my feet desperately, clinging tightly to my pants leg. "Master Chen and no master. I was wrong. I am willing to sign a blood contract with you, to be your servant." Jiang Shuman pleaded with me in tears, but I was too lazy to even look at him. "Do you even deserve to sign a contract with my 4 servants? I'll settle the score with you when I have time." Jiang Shuman lowered his head in despair, crawling towards the Su Mengyao family's ancestral hall. I knelt on the ground, holding the girl in green. This place has already been revered. Every year, people come here to renovate and worship. A gentle breeze brushed the girl in my arms. The eyelashes fluttered slightly, and slowly opened those clear eyes. I smiled slightly, gently holding her cold hand. However, this tranquility lasted only a moment. High above the heavens, the clear sky was instantly engulfed by pitch-black clouds. The sea of clouds was violently torn apart. Golden light blazed. Celestial soldiers and generals arrayed themselves like a net across the firmament. I knew divine punishment had arrived. I forcibly broke into the underworld, reversing life and death, having long violated the laws of heaven and earth. Heaven would never tolerate me. I gently pushed him away, placing him safely on the ground. I stood up and let out a dragon's roar towards the sky. Transforming into a dazzling golden dragon, I flew toward the heavens, actively welcoming my destiny. In that instant, dozens of God-binding iron chains, flashing with lightning, burst forth, ruthlessly piercing through my body. Immediately following, immense heavenly lightning struck down along the chains, shattering my essence into fragments. The pain was like 1,000 blades piercing my heart, just as my consciousness was about to collapse. A point of the original pitch-black cloud suddenly arose in the sky above, turbulently churning. A power even more violent and resolute than divine punishment descended from the sky. An all-encompassing azure light pierced through the darkness like a sword. 100 times more exaggerated than the celestial phenomena when the evil dragon descended before. It was the tribulation of dragon transformation. I struggled to open my eyes, and saw a resolute figure in green flash past me, with a world-destroying, unwavering momentum, heading straight for the group of high and mighty celestial soldiers and generals. I understood instantly. He, to save me, actually, with his cultivation far from sufficient, forcibly triggered the near-certain death dragon transformation tribulation. He wanted to use his own tribulation to forcefully confront all of the heavens. He wanted to perish together with that group of celestial soldiers and generals. No, I desperately roared. But amidst the shouts of the celestial soldiers and generals and the earth-shattering explosions, he transformed into a massive green snake, welcoming the overwhelming explosion. The powerful explosive shockwave instantly shattered the god-binding chains that restrained me. Taking advantage of the moment when the void was torn apart, he used his last remaining strength to forcibly send that wisp of my original true spirit, which had not yet been completely erased by the divine punishment, into the turbulent yellow river dragon vein. I don't know how much time passed. On the banks of the churning yellow river, a Qing snake, covered in wounds, was barely clinging to life, coiled in the reeds. Day after day, it stared at the rushing river. A wisp of a true dragon's soul, which it had desperately protected, slumbered at the bottom. Being reborn by borrowing a womb was almost impossible, but it kept waiting sunrise and sunset. Spring went, autumn came. 1 day, 2 days. 1 year, 2 years. Centuries changed the landscape. Millennia shifted the stars. Through wind, frost, snow, and rain, the Qing snake remained coiled by the yellow river, never leaving. Until one day, a woman was bathing by the yellow river. The Dragon King, wandering by, saw her, and before he could react, she was forcibly taken back to the Dragon Palace. Little did they know, less than half a month later, the woman's belly was swollen with child. First, the woman was overjoyed. She thought she could become a dragon princess, revered by all. But when the Dragon King learned of this, he didn't even stir. Instead, he flew into a rage. He directly locked the woman in a water prison, and he declared, "When the dragon child is born, this king will devour the little bastard. It will help me increase my cultivation by 100 years. The old Dragon King naturally realized that the fetus was not his seed at all, but the pure soul of a true dragon from the bottom of the yellow river, borrowing a womb to be reborn. The woman was single-mindedly focused on letting the child grow up safely. On the day of delivery, she escaped from the water prison with all her might. Then, she entrusted the newborn child to a Qing snake by the yellow river that had failed its tribulation. She pleaded weakly, "Please, you must protect my son. This child is a dragon child. He will definitely be able to help you in the future." As soon as she finished speaking, the woman had no strength left. She was swept away by the churning yellow river, disappearing in the rapid current. But unexpectedly, the next second, the Qing snake, covered in wounds, flicked its tongue, and transformed into a stunningly beautiful girl in green robes. She held the baby close, cradling it carefully in her arms. Watching the baby's eyes, that faintly shimmered with a dark gold light, a single tear rolled down the young woman in green's cheek. "We finally met again,"